Narcan saves lives. Narcan has saved my own life.
Everyone should be carrying Narcan. It reverses an opioid overdose.
It's easy to get. It's almost at any pharmacy. You don't have to be 18, and you don't need a prescription.
It is saving lives every single day.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Financially Fit Podcast. I'm your host, Andre Creighton. As always, I'm excited to be here with you all today. This is the podcast that helps small business owners and founders build financial strength, one workout at a time. And I'm really excited to continue down our path of building a foundation with you founders and small business owners. A quick recap, if you missed the first few episodes, episode 1, we talked about the business fitness test, which is really your baseline. Episode 2, we talked about bootstrapping like a pro. This is more meant for those that are looking for that lean growth. And then episode 3, we talked about banking and credit and, really that strength training piece. This is the foundation, right? We want to have good banking relationships. We want to have awesome credit. So then when we do need to leverage debt, we're in a really good position. And then episode 4 is what we call the money muscles, right? Yeah, the money muscles. Yep. So this is budget training plan, right? So this is really our time where we budget and we understand where every single dollar is going. This is what helps us run efficiently. This is what helps us scale up, and this is what helps us ensure that through the tough times that we can continue on forward through those tough times into what's next to come. So today we're going to talk about revenue reps, landing your first 100 customers. Landing your first 100 customers is one of the hardest things that you'll ever do in your business. Really finding that product market fit and understanding what your customers want from you and your product. And honestly, when you are working with, various customers, whether it's in a B2C market or whether it's in a B2B market, customers are going to want different things, right? So it's finding that balance of, okay, what do I upgrade? What do I kind of put on the roadmap for later? What do I ignore, right? Because at the end of the day, some things can just be noise, right? And the reality is that sometimes your product isn't for everyone, right? Or service. So it's really understanding your customer, understanding what market you want to be in, and understanding how do I continue to increase those unit metrics over time, right? But the most important thing is getting those first 100 customers by any means necessary. Obviously we don't want to just give our product or service away, but at times there may be promos that we need to run in order to be able to get some traction and as a new company. So this is, I gave you just a little overview of what we're going to talk about today, but now it's the time to put the training into action. Today we're going to talk about those revenue reps and how you land the first 100 customers, because no matter how fit your business looks on paper, without customers, you don't have a business. That's just point blank, period. Without customers, you don't have a business. So why does the first 100 customers matter? The first 100 customers provide you with a proof of concept. It helps you validate your idea. And this is so important whether you're going to continue to bootstrap this thing, whether you're going to raise venture money. Having that proof of concept that this can be something that people in the marketplace want is so important, because you can't get to scalability if you don't understand if there's a need for this in the marketplace, right? So moving past, I always, talk about how starting a business is kind of like being a mad scientist, right? Scientists, they're in the lab, they're trying to solve some big uh, mystery that's maybe plaguing our country, whether it's like a disease, right? And they have their hypothesis and they're testing them, right? And you know, that's exactly what startups and founders and owners are doing is you have this great idea, you think that it's solving a problem, it can solve a problem in the world, you put it out into the world, and really what you're doing is you're just testing your hypothesis, right? And as you test that hypothesis, you get data back and understanding around, okay, what's the market telling me? And then that allows you to go back and adjust your product or services, right? No different than a scientist, right? When when an experiment doesn't work, they look to understand why didn't it work, and then they go back and they adjust the experiment to make sure that next time they get maybe a few steps closer. And that's what we have to do as founders, owners, uh, continue to take steps forward to finding what that product market fit is. The next one is momentum builder. So early wins create referrals and word of mouth. Referrals and word of mouth are one of the biggest advantages a founder or owner can have, because innately there's a lot of trust when that when two people respect each other, right? And their opinions, and that person goes to, the other person says, "Hey, have you checked out this product or service? Like, I've been using it for X amount of months, weeks, whatever it may be." That is so powerful, and it really can turn into a domino effect, right? Because then that person goes and tells another person, that person goes and tells another person, right? And so on and so forth. And then it starts to spread like wildfire. It's truly amazing how quickly word of mouth gets around. And thinking about the social media environment today, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook or what have you, or LinkedIn, like the ability to get to the mass people or go viral is just incredible, right? I'm not saying that it's easy to go viral, right? But I'm saying that if you truly have content that um, happens to go viral, like you can reach a lot of people, and that's what we talk about in that domino effect. Financial stability. So early customers equal cash flow, right? And what we do with that cash flow is we reinvest that cash flow. Uh, I always say in the early days when you're making revenue, you want to be reinvesting most of that revenue back into the company, right? Obviously, you need to be able to live and pay yourself, but at the end of the day, you didn't start that company or startup or whatever it may be to get rich on day one. You started it with the belief that I can solve a problem, and I think you getting becoming wealthy from that is a byproduct of doing well and doing right by the business, right? So we want to make sure that the revenue that we're putting in is going back into that business to serve our customers and put us in the position to continue to grow and scale. And then lastly, investor appeal. So traction beats theory every single time. Investors want to see traction. They want to see that people want your product or service. They want to see that you can scale your product or service. They want to understand what your roadmap looks like to grow this thing. Are there other products and services uh, that are parallel, or other verticals that you can get into within your product or service without disrupting or distracting you from your core? Like those are the things that investors care about when we're looking to take on private capital, right? So, those first 100 customers are your business's first real workout. Um, you know, Once you get them, everything else becomes easier. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm saying that everything else becomes easier, right? Because then you start to get data points. You start to understand how are your customers interacting with your product or service. How many repeat customers do I have? How many customers am I churning? Why did those customers churn, right? Those data points are instrumental to your growth and instrumental to you curating a product or service that can not only be attractive to other customers, but truly can be scalable because you're getting that feedback. So let's jump in and talk about the 5 strategies to land your first 100 customers. Number one, you want to start with your inner circle: friends, families, professional networks, and your first ambassadors. These are going to be your champions. These are people that likely will support you through thick and thin. Um, you want to make sure that you have them on the wagon, right? Bring them on the wagon, tell them what you need. I know it can be uncomfortable, especially when it's family and friends, but the reality is we want to make sure that they understand our product. We want them to be able to speak intelligently about our product or service, and quite frankly, the more, like I talked about prior, like word of mouth go spreads really fast. So the more that we can get those early champions, especially our friends, family, our professional networks, uh, the better that we're going to be. Leverage social media like LinkedIn, alumni groups, community ties. Like these are also other champions, other avenues for you to reach the masses. And there's really easy ways to frame it. Can you support and share this? Not buy from me, but like, can you support and share this? um that's so important. And then number two, so sell before you build. So maybe like pre-orders, wait lists, beta launches. Like if you can get some pre-orders or sell before the product or service is even ready, you're going to build quite a bit of momentum that's going to propel you forward as you continue down your journey. Um, some examples of that is, you can offer early adopter discounts, you can offer perks or founders club status. Like, there's ways to make people or customers feel important, and to allow them to buy into what you are doing, right? So I I cannot emphasize that more. Like sell before you build. What it's going to help you validate demand before spending big on a product or service build out that people don't want. Use guerrilla marketing, so grassroots, low cost tactics. Flyers, local events, DM reach outs. Um, these are easy, cost efficient ways for you to get just general marketing out that's maybe not as target specific, but can be far reaching. You want to be scrappy. One-to-one conversations beat one-to-many ads at this stage. So you want to have those one-to-one conversations because, quite frankly, you don't have a lot of brand equity yet. So the you want to start with meeting with people one-on-one, build those champions, those ambassadors, and let release them out into community so other people can learn about what you're doing. So really think about, sweat equity over ad spend. At this point in time, we really want to be spending the money to make sure that our product and services can be are well are in great shape, right? And are in a place where, we can continue to get, once the customers come and use our product or service, that they continue to come back because they feel like they're getting a premium experience, right? um Number four, create partnerships and referrals. So, team up with complementary businesses. You see this a lot of times, whether that's you doing a rev share with other businesses, maybe having some referral incentives, discounts, freebies, loyalty perks, etc. Like, find a way to create community and get people to buy into what you're doing. Uh, you know, I think the thing I love about partnerships is partnerships give you borrowed trust and access to established audiences. So, I think back to my time as a founder, it was really hard when we were building brand equity with Turn Signal and awareness what Turn Signal was, and really helping people understand how to talk about Turn Signal. Because the other thing is, like, people, if you don't intentionally tell people what your product or service is, they will start to make assumptions about your product or service, right? And those assumptions could be wrong. Maybe they're partially right, whatever it may be. But when you have established partnerships that already have a great base, that allows you to expand your awareness quicker. And that allows you to bring in revenue, which then allows you to be more concrete around your storytelling and the ways that you're advertising, etc. Um, Last but not least, this is probably the most important one on this list. And that's partially why I saved it for last. But you want to focus on the customer experience, not just sales. Every new customer equals a new potential market for you. So you want to make sure that that experience to them is premium and that they truly are, that the experience is so phenomenal that it invites them back, right? That they want to come back. They're in dire need to come back and use your service or product, right? Um, you want to over deliver. So, get testimonials, reviews, referrals, over deliver, under promise. So be very concrete about when you're making advancements in the technology or whatever the product or services may be, and be upfront when you make a mistake too, right? Like own that mistake, right? But then figure out how to make it right. That is how you build loyalty, right? By it's okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but how do you make it right? How do you make it right to a point where the customer says, "Wow, like this company has it together. They care about me." We want customers to feel like you care about them, right? So really just leaning into doing right by the customer first, the sales and revenue will come. The last thing I will say on this is like, build a system to collect stories and feedback right away. You don't want to wait until weeks until after someone's used your product or service. You want to get that feedback almost in real time if you can. Um, it's fresh on their mind. They likely haven't, forgotten about your product. They're just, if they had a really great experience, like your product is already deep on their mind and like they're already thinking about who they need to tell or who they need to share this with, right? That is a perfect time for you um, to capture that feedback or review. So, some things I want you to reflect on this week. Who are the 10 people you could reach out to this week about your business? And then I want you to go reach out to them. And then, secondly, what value can you offer them in return for their support or referral, right? So, it's just like a relationship. Everything is, takes two, right? It's give and take, right? And it can't be one-sided. And I think that's so important that when you're asking people to be a champion of your business, you also need to think about like what can I provide them, right? So your action step is, write down your first 100 names, start with people and then expand outward, right? Turn this into a customer prospect workout routine. I want, if you do 10 reps each day, right? Um, it should only take you 10 days, right? If you're thinking about 10 people each day. So I I think there's a lot of opportunity out here. I think that we just have to get very clear on who we want to be, who our target is, and how we're going to target them, and what are they getting out of this, right? So, as I always say, business is tough and it's not for the faint heart, but there's a lot of successful people out here that have never run a business or don't have any business experience. The reality is they are willing to take a leap of faith. They're willing to figure out what they didn't know. They're willing to ask for help and be vulnerable. And they are willing to really lean into caring about people and their customers deeply, and that's why they're successful. So, the next episode we're going to talk about is pricing. So, profit power, pricing that pays. That next episode is really going to be about like how do we price things? How do we think about pricing within our business? So, if this episode gave you some ideas, share it with another founder, and subscribe so you don't miss any more episodes of the Financially Fit Podcast. I'll leave you with this. As I always say, it's not about how much money you make. The power is in how much money you keep. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'll see you on the next episode of the Financially Fit Podcast. Take care.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
To keep my home running smooth, I count on Xfinity Internet. With 99.9% reliability, we're all online at once. No slowdowns. The Xfinity app lets me manage our Wi-Fi and keep things secure. Xfinity makes it easy.